Happy Friday, Surgeaholics. We've missed you the last 3 days. Great to be back tonight. Thanks for your patience as we've been off the last 3 days. There's a lot to talk about, Hunter. You've got big time commits making decisions in the next few days, and we'll kind of go over who those are that are making decisions. But first, just good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here watching us again. It's great to be back. I think the biggest news, Hunter, is Lamont Rogers right now because of the commitment date tomorrow. I know Missouri, Texas, and OU are kind of the three. It's been really quiet.
Yeah. Who knows with that one? I think not really anyone knows right now. But, yeah, 4 schools still. And for Oklahoma, I want to say the highest offensive line commit since Bray Walker, if Oklahoma were to land him, a borderline 5-star recruit, 7th overall tackle, 13th player in Texas, and 55th in the nation, according to the composite rankings. I think he could even go up to that 5-star mark as more updates in the recruiting cycle come out. So it's a massive get for Oklahoma if they're able to land them.
Yeah, if they're able to get Rogers, obviously him, Hutton, Hutto, and Fasusi are they're not a package deal. That's not even a chance. But if you were to somehow get Rogers and Fasusi, your tackles are bookended. Those bookend tackles for a few years is unbelievable. Look, I think Missouri's the favorite right now, though, Rogers. But it wouldn't surprise me if he's a Sooner tomorrow, Hunter.
Honestly, who knows? But yeah, Ryan Foje, Darius Afalava, Owen Hollenbeck, that's an impressive offensive line haul right there for Bedenbaugh if he was able to land those 5, building off of a really good offensive line haul last year, even though he did miss out on the big names, but still able to put together a very well-rounded offensive line class. So Bill Bedenbaugh looking to add to Oklahoma's top 5 class.
Yeah, and you recall, what was it, a year ago, 2 years ago, people were wondering if Bill Bedenbaugh can recruit. If he were to land not 1 but 2 5-stars, yikes. Good to see you too, Monty. Braden says, what's the status on Kennedy? Here's the status. She's in Japan playing for Team USA. She comes back the 9th or so, I believe, July. Their last game's on the 8th. I look for next week.
Not sure on how long they're staying in Japan when they're back. Again, those games against Japan, they're not available in the U.S. for streaming. Kind of got to just keep up with the Twitter updates from Team USA. They play in about 2.5 hours at midnight Central Time. They play their second of 3 games in Japan.
If you want to know status on Kennedy, as far as being a Sooner, I'm saying 75% she's in Norman. That's the percentage I'm giving.
I wouldn't give a percentage like that.
Hunter, I give percentages, though. I know you won't. You play it safe. I'm absolutely giving a percentage. And I'm going to say 75% because of, like I said on the video the other day, the facilities, the family atmosphere, and the future. I was going to say, in Bill Bedenbaugh we trust is what the bomb says. And, hey, I agree with you. I definitely trust Bill Bedenbaugh. On the field, I trust him in recruiting. He's gotten better. I think he's become a better recruiter in his time at OU. And there's people that don't trust Bill Bedenbaugh, believe it or not.
It's crazy. You look at the track record. You look at he puts out the tweets all the time about the amount of money that mostly his former players, really minus Trent Williams, they all played for him. Obviously, Lane Johnson didn't as well. So minus the 2 big names, but again, a very, very good, impressive offensive line alums that are in the NFL. Creed Humphrey, best center in the NFL, played for Bill Bedenbaugh. Orlando Brown has been very successful, landed some major contracts so far from winning a Super Bowl on the Chiefs. It's just. I think the proof is there for Bill Bedenbaugh. And you look at what he's done out of the transfer portal as well, with landing guys like Walter Rouse. McCade Metallier was pretty good, improved over his years at Oklahoma. So,
hey, Greg God says Robert Spears, Jennings, and Billy are looking crazy right now. And listen, as we get closer and we edge closer to the season, we're going to start seeing these guys in uniforms popping. And I tell you what, I think OU's going to pass the eye test. Hunter doesn't want to do the push-ups. No, that is correct, Maz. And hey, listen, Hunter,
there's no mojo here, dude. Like, what are we talking about? Come on now.
Hunter, you have not you have not watched it, I know, but I've got to ask the Surgeaholics, because the Surgeaholics are legit, and I'm sure they've watched it. The Barrett Saleh video where he's talking about the University of Oklahoma and the SEC. Curious if anyone on here watched that. I'm just curious who watched that clip. It was interesting, Hunter.
Yeah, I really that's my bad. I should have took the time to go watch it. I've been listening to the new Zach Bryan album pretty much on repeat since it dropped. So yeah, should have took a little bit of time to watch it. But I saw a lot of fans upset over that, and a lot of people speaking. I think Teddy Lehman put out a tweet kind of in regards to that as well, of very unhappy with it.
Yeah, and I'll get to that in a second. But first, Chester, here's one thing I know for certain. My in-laws live in Columbia. I've been to a Missouri game last time they played OU. It was an embarrassment how their fans acted. It doesn't matter what Missouri's record is. They're going to talk smack, and they're going to do it all the time. And that's why that game, actually, Hunter, it really shouldn't even be really a huge rivalry game, but it's on there. You ask Sooner fans which one they want the most, that may be up there with the likes of Texas. And
yeah,
it is.
Especially the people that are on Twitter and that are engaging with those Missouri accounts that are really just out there to draw reactions. But Missouri, I think, considers Oklahoma to be a big rival and kind of the bad blood. They haven't played since, man, how many years has that been now? The last time they did the
Chase Daniel era.
Yeah, Chase Daniel upset win over Oklahoma. Greg God says it, Mizzou over Texas. So yeah,
I agree.
I think a lot of I do as well. I think that a lot of fans are circling that game more than they typically would, especially because you look at the recruiting side of it. It was already bad in the recruiting with the whole Williams and Nwaneri, Luther Burden even, and then the whole Caden Green situation last year. That really just adds fuel to the fire there.
Who was the quarterback when they beat OU? I thought it was Chase Daniels.
Oh, let me look it up.
Missouri was number 1 that year, Hunter.
Were they?
The game I went to, maybe it wasn't the last time they played, but OU lost at Missouri. College Game Day was there. Pretty sure it was Chase Daniels. But a couple things. The reason I agree with Greg God, Hunter, and everyone that's on here, if OU beats Missouri on the road, okay, that's in November 9th. So if you close your season with at Missouri a win, Bama at home you win, and at LSU, the Texas loss probably doesn't hurt you. But if you lose to Missouri at the end of the season, I think it hurts you a little more.
Yeah. Real quick, it was not Chase Daniel. It was Blaine Gabbert.
Blaine Gabbert, that's right.
Yeah, Blaine Gabbert.
Were they number 1 that year, though?
They were. OU was number 1. They were 11 at the time. I would have to look at the final.
Blaine Gabbert. Wow.
Missouri did finish pretty high, I believe, that year.
He was drafted, Hunter.
Yeah, he had a pretty good-sized NFL career. Played quite a bit for the Niners a few years ago, also for Jacksonville. So,
it'll be raucous. Anyway, about with Barrett Saleh, here's the problem I think most Sooner fans had with his comment. He basically said OU is going to be the Auburn. Well, like you said earlier, Hunter, when we were talking, I guess he doesn't realize Auburn won a national championship not too long ago.
I think that is easy to forget because it was Cam Newton. It was 1 year since then, Auburn. But they did also play for a national championship a few years later, 2013. I want to
Correct.
say against Florida State. They played for a national championship that year, the Kick Six year. So, again, not sure on kind of the Auburn. I don't think that's a fair comparison of a bad program. I mean, they've had some down years as of recently, but you look early 2010s, they won a national championship, played for another one, and were pretty successful
Yeah.
long ago.
Hey, and the thing is, it was Venables. Someone said Venables last season. I'm pretty sure it was Venables that year when they lost to Blaine Gabbert. But the other thing is, you talk about the comments that really stood out of why people didn't like what he said is he said OU will never be in the categories of Georgia, Alabama, and everyone's probably like, okay. And then he threw Texas in there. Okay, you can't. That is a horrible take. Horrible.
Yeah, Texas. I think Texas is going to be successful. Again, you have to see it again in consecutive years, but to throw Texas in there right now, I think is, I don't know. I think if you want to add a third school, it should probably be LSU. Look at what they've done over recent years.
Yeah, someone said Ted Roof was the DC on that Auburn team. Was he really?
I think he won a national championship at Auburn.
With Gene Chizik? So was he the DC under Gene Chizik?
Yes, he was the DC from 2009 to 2011.
Eric said you're wrong, Hunter. They didn't play and lose to FSU. What year would that have been, Hunter?
That was 2013. Let me
look it up. Eric said you're wrong, though. Here's the thing with Texas. The potential,
they lost by 3 points against Florida State in 2013. That was the Kick Six year.
The 6 year was Cam Newton. That was their last appearance, Eric says.
That's incorrect. They played for the BCS National Championship in 2013.
Yeah, and who was their quarterback that year?
Auburn?
I can't remember. Dude, hey, Gene Chizik was pretty good. Gene Chizik was a pretty good coach. I don't think he got enough kudos.
Auburn's quarterback was Nick Marshall. They had Trey Mason that year at running back. Trey Mason was very good that year. 1,800 yards rushing, 23 touchdowns, 5.7 a carry.
Hey, here's the thing we know about Texas. Last year, they had a phenomenal year. They made the playoff. However, I think a lot of the pressure is on them this year, and they lost some guys. Now, they have some great recruits. They have great players across the board. Can they do it 2 years in a row? And the other thing I think that may be a little thorn in their side, Hunter and viewers, is the whole Archie Manning looming in the background. That can be great, and I know you're shaking your head, Hunter. That can be tough for Quinn Ewers.
I disagree. I think if it was going to be tough, it would have been last year. But again, seriously, I don't think Quinn Ewers' position is at all something to worry about for Texas. He would have to be very bad for it to be that way. And he's probably going to be looking at that quarterback class, a high draft pick, first couple rounds drafted quarterback, one of the first quarterbacks off the board. I think it would have to go really sideways and go sideways fast for at any point Archie Manning to be taken over.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to get benched. I'm saying the mindset of knowing that Archie Manning's behind you, it could bother him. But we'll see what he does in the Big 12. I mean, in the SEC. People do need to take a step back and remember they pretty much handled Alabama with Quinn Ewers, and they put a lot of points on the board against Quinn Ewers. Against Alabama. So you got to remember that.
Yeah, and then you look at Texas's schedule next year. Outside of the annual Red River game in Dallas against OU, all they have other than that is Georgia at home. Also F1 weekend in Austin that weekend. So again, they avoided Bama, they avoided Ole Miss, Missouri, LSU, and their toughest game of the year is at home. So a pretty favorable schedule.
Michigan, where's Michigan at?
At Michigan. But again, Michigan is Sharon Moore as head coach now, no Jim Harbaugh. Look at everything they lost to the draft this past year. I think Sharon Moore is going to be a good head coach. Don't get me wrong. I do think he's going to have some growing pains this year with just everyone they lost. I mean, maybe he surprises people and gets Michigan into the 12-team playoffs. You look at the Big Ten, I mean, outside of Ohio State and Oregon, who could that third team be? I think they are probably going to get 3 teams in. I mean, is it going to be Penn State? I don't really think so, but maybe it is.
Yeah, Sooner fan says the more he thinks about it, the more confident they are in OU going at least 9-3 this year. That is the number. 9 and someone earlier talked about Dusty Dvorak, said that would be okay. 9-3 is good. 10-2 is phenomenal. I think 9-3 is a good season, and 8-4 is an absolute disappointment. 8-4 is a disappointment. 9-3 is good. 10-2 is great.
10-2 gets you guaranteed a playoff spot. You're guaranteed to be a top 11 team. You're going to the college football playoff, possibly even hosting a first round game, depending on if you make the conference championship and then say win it. You could be getting a first round bye as well. So again, that would be massive. But I think 9-3 is a success for Oklahoma, where they have a good shot to make the playoffs. Again, if the tiebreakers don't go their way, that's something you kind of just live with. That's something that could happen, but I think 9-3 is a good season for OU.
Hey guys, and no offense, Ron and Dalpois. Dalpois says I really hope no worse than it. Guys, 8-4 is an utter disappointment. This is the University of Oklahoma. If you're throwing out 8-4, you're not going to be in the playoff, which means you're not a top 12 to 15 program in the country at the University of Oklahoma. 8-4 cannot happen this year. I will not be happy with it, for one. You guys call me a homer, which is first off false, but I wouldn't be happy with 8-4. And I think it is disappointing, considering your quarterback is better than the one you had here, much more talented. And agree, the O-line, the scheduling is much more difficult, but still, you got to be able to win a couple of games on the road. And yes, P all over it, Mom. P all over 8-4.
I don't think 8-4 puts Brent Venables on the hot seat. I think 5 is what puts you on the hot seat, or worse.
8-4. Okay, I'll give you that, but 8-4 causes me to raise a lot of questions on if he's the guy. Depending on who the 4 losses are to.
Again, that's the other thing. It is one of the 4 losses to, say, Houston or Tulane, a non-conference game that Oklahoma absolutely should win, or is it to even Auburn on the road or South Carolina, Tennessee at home? Those are games you have to win. So if Oklahoma were to, say, lose one of those games and that be one of their 4 losses, then yeah, that could be something. But again, 8-4, if you're losing to the likes of Texas, Mizzou, Ole Miss, LSU, maybe even Bama at home, I don't think is.
But here's why I'm raising questions, Hunter. Even if it's LSU, Missouri, Texas, and Ole Miss, let's say those are the 4 losses and they're fairly close. I'm at the point where, as a Sooner fan, I'm thinking, I don't know if BV. I mean, last year they couldn't win close games outside of Texas. They lose close games and they lose to teams they shouldn't. And this year they would lose close games again. I'd be throwing my hands up thinking, I don't know about this.
If Oklahoma were to, say, lose 4 games by 1 possession, that would be 11 losses in 3 years for Oklahoma in 1 possession games. That is something to raise concerns. I think the pressure would start to mount, but hot seat at that point, I just don't think that is the case. I think it's, again, 1 more year to then, if it happened again, then yeah, that's a hot seat. But
I love that Chester is calling Missouri mid-poo. That's great. We need to go with that all season, Surgeaholics. Secondly, Ron, I will agree with you on this. Until proven different, OU team will run it, I guess, by week 7. I can agree with you on that until they've proven themselves. But you can't, in the same breath, Ron, say 8-4 and be happy then. Because me, that's exactly the problem. 8-4 with our schedule this year would be as good as 11-1 with. I would say as good as 10-2 possibly, but still. And I wasn't happy with 10-2 last year. OU should have been in the playoffs last year.
At the way the first 6 weeks, the way Oklahoma was playing to beat Texas in the fashion that they did, a 1-minute drill to win it, a walk-off touchdown pretty much, and then to come out the way that they did after bye week against UCF, barely escaped there, then lose 2 straight road games to Kansas and Oklahoma State. Yeah, that's not the way people wanted the season to end, and I think that's a disappointment for a lot of fans.
More depth now, and Matt's right. And guys, first off, I got to again give Steve Stutzman kudos for coming on the other night. I hope you guys enjoyed Steve Stutzman. We're hoping he'll do that again. He was great, but he really specifically talked about the depth now and how different it is. And I think that's a good point, Matt. You've got to look at that. And people shooting off fireworks on the 5th.
Hey,
yeah,
sorry.
It's a little much. It's a little much.
It's my neighbors. I'm not sure. I really thought it wouldn't be going on tonight.
No,
so
I don't think they can hear it.
I don't know. I can hear it out my window, so maybe viewers can hear it in the background as well. But
and Grey God, I'm with you. I know what Kenneth said about Levy was scared of his own shadow, and I know Hunter and Jay. If Jay was on here, he'd be all in agreement with you, Kenneth. But I'm on Grey God's side because Jeff Levy, while he had some questionable play calls, as do all offensive coordinators, because fans criticize every call, he did have a top 5 offense, consistently scored points. So I'm not going to say that he couldn't call plays. That's a bad take.
I get kind of what you're saying there, but at the same time, you look against Kansas, Oklahoma State, they had prime opportunities against Kansas to put the game away. You need a first down, you win it. Against Oklahoma State, you need a touchdown. Even a field goal ties it, and you go to overtime at that point. They had opportunities. The defense did their job. They just didn't do it. And I think in those moments, there was some, again, questionable play calls made. I think a lot of people.
I'm not going to deny that.
And also, I know a lot of people, he's no longer there, but personnel decisions at times were something that a lot of fans were upset with.
Well, and I see Ron says DG made it go. Well, I'm here to also tell you Jeff Levy made DG go a little bit. It's a system that's had success wherever he's been. He's going to put a lot of points up at Mississippi State, I think, too. So we'll see. Who's their quarterback at Mississippi State?
I know Blake Shapen from Baylor transferred.
That's right.
Let me look up their Mississippi State's spring game and the box score from that.
And I agree with Greg God here that how much, I mean, I don't know if he was scared of his own shadow, Kenneth, if he was scared of DG's lack of arm strength. So, and I also think, Hunter, DeMarco Murray's got to have some question marks. When you mentioned personnel, and because personnel, it seems like that DeMarco Murray made decisions on who was going to play at running back, and they never got that figured out till later in the year.
That was an issue, but then again, you're looking at injuries with Salchuk was at times banged up. Javante Barnes was never healthy the entire season. Tolly Walker, I think everyone would agree, should have been the consistent starting running back. There was a lot of issues. I think if it continues to say this year, then start to raise the questions, but again, I think DeMarco Murray is a very good running back coach, and there's a reason that Oklahoma has done so much to get him to stick around.
Yeah, and the two things that are argued most from Sooner fans, the two things that are most criticized, Hunter, offensive coordinator and quarterback, right?
Yeah,
and
at Oklahoma.
They still are right now. Next year, Seth Luttrell and Jackson Arnold may be the most scrutinized.
Those two people are criticized at just about every university, and then when it's a blue blood like Oklahoma that's had so much success really recently, as well as just all time at those at offensive coordinator, the play caller with quarterbacks. I mean, 2 Heismans in back-to-back years in 2017, 2018. Fans are going to be critical of anything less than greatness. That's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, and have a good night, Chester. Thanks for being faithful watcher of our channel. I tell you what, a team that no one's really talking about, maybe it's because it's outside of SEC territory. Do you know who? I mean, if you're this fan, it should be national championship. Ohio State, guys.
I don't think Ohio State has the quarterback to win a national championship.
Okay, but Hunter, every other position they are flat out loaded. Their defense almost had everyone back and got Caleb Downs.
Yeah, and again, they have to beat Michigan.
If Ryan Day doesn't beat Michigan,
I honestly thought Ryan Day could have possibly been out even after a pretty good year last year, but losing to Michigan 3 years in a row, regardless if they won the national championship last year or not, you just can't do it. And it really
is he better than Kyle McCord? Because I think he is. Hunter, how many games did Ohio State lose last year?
What, 2?
1, Michigan.
Oh, yeah, 1, Michigan, correct.
If that was this year, they're in the playoff with 1 loss.
Jackson, I'm with you on this. I think Ohio State would be better off with
Nope. There's another guy.
Jalen saying?
Yes. And a source that I have says Nolan probably isn't ready, but that guy.
You want to talk about a quarterback haul last year? It's Jalen Saying and Aaron Nolan. I mean, those are 2 of the top quarterbacks in the class. Saying, I believe he won Elite 11 MVP when he was at that point committed to Alabama. But again, I don't think Will Howard is it. Maybe he's better than Kyle McCord, but you look at what Ohio State has across the board for that to be their starting quarterback is kind of shocking. I figured they would have Julian Saying, sorry. But I figured that they would have been more into the Cam Ward sweepstakes, one of the best quarterbacks in the transfer. I mean, you look at if Cam Ward, Bobby has talked a lot about Miami, and a lot of that is because of Cam Ward. If Ohio State had Cam Ward, it would be, I think, the team that is expected to win the national championship.
What Billy says is spot on. They did win with Stetson Bennett. I agree. And Steve, what I said here, let's not take this out of context, please. As a Sooner fan, I want to beat Texas more than any other team out there. I'm saying for playoff purposes, beating Missouri on November 9th probably means more than beating Texas. Or losing to Missouri on November 9th hurts you way worse than losing to Texas early in the year.
I think they kind of hold the same weight in playoff purposes, but
they're going to look at OU's last 5 games, and if OU's won all 5 and they're 9-3, they're taking them to the playoff because they've won 5 in a row. They're hot.
Well,
that's a stat that no one looked at in the years past. They're going to look at that.
Wait, pause real quick. Go back on that. You're saying 9-3, but winning their last 5 games.
It's Maine and then those 3 teams. So there's the last 4.
Okay. But 9-3, and they win those last 4 games.
You think they'd go? I do.
Where are the 3? I don't. Where are the 3 losses coming from, Jerm?
Texas, Ole Miss, and who's the other one? Maybe Auburn early in the year or something.
Again, I think Auburn is a game you cannot lose.
And again, Hunter,
a lot of this is, I think, talking about 9-3 in the playoffs right now is difficult because there is not.
We don't know who the other teams are.
Well, but we don't know the tiebreakers. How is the SEC going to determine tiebreakers? How is the playoff committee going to evaluate this 12?
That's why I said it, Hunter, because if you go to any other sport that has decisions based on, I mean, you look at college basketball, they look at your last 10 games.
What I'm saying is, I get that part, Jerm.
That's what I'm saying.
Also, if you're looking at the last 5 games and there's 3 losses early, some of them earlier in the schedules, especially Auburn. That kind of raises some questions there for Oklahoma. Also, what is in the record of those other teams? I mean, Ole Miss really should be 10-2 at worst.
Yeah.
They have Alabama and they have Oklahoma. They have Oklahoma at home. Again, they should be 10-2. So
Yeah.
it's also, I think this year the SEC should get 4 at the minimum, if not 5 teams. Just looking, again, it's July 5th at this point, but I don't think the Big 12 is going to be great. I think maybe the ACC could get 2 teams in. We were talking about the Big 10 earlier. I think they're getting 2 in Oregon, Ohio State, a third one possibly. Yeah, possibly a third one. I don't think they're getting 4 this year. Might be wrong on that, but you're looking at spots there. So,
and real quick, Stutzman, I think McCullough could surprise some people at linebacker. Kip probably is going to get start there. Look, it's something good to talk about. I'm glad Richard asked that question, and maybe that's something we start breaking down each night on the live, or some of these 2 deeps and maybe even 3 deeps at some of these positions. But I promise you this, we'll be covering it all. We love hearing from you, our viewers, our community on here. Thanks so much for being patient with us the last 3 days as we've been spending time with family and through the holidays. We appreciate you all being back tonight. We'll do this again tomorrow night. Jay will be back joining us. And the gang will be back together. Appreciate you watching. Till next time.